Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to our STEM video lesson. In this lesson, we're doing the unit life cycle, lesson 2. And in today's lesson, we'll be looking at herbivore and carnivore. Before we begin today's lesson, let's go through the schedule of the day. Number 1, have your learning materials. That's your STEM textbook ready on hand. Number 2, we will look at what is the scientific method. Number 3, we'll look at the topic herbivore and carnivore. To understand this topic, we need to log into this website called Big Bang Academy, which has all the necessary videos and games and other related material for this topic. Mrs. Desai will guide you on how to log into this website. And last, the experiment part, the dinosaur tooth experiment. Now, in this video lesson, we will do the setup for the experiment that has to be conducted or done during the live lesson along with your teacher. Okay, so watch this video very carefully. In this lesson, we are doing something very interesting. We are doing an experiment. We are making a dinosaur tooth, and we'll find out whether it belongs to the herbivore type, the carnivore type, or the omnivore type. When we do an experiment in science lesson, it's very important for us to follow certain steps. And these steps, they form the scientific method. They guide us. They gradually take us from one step to another step, that is, from observing, asking questions, doing the experiment. And before we do the experiment, we have to plan the experiment, we have to set up the experiment. So, if we will look at what all these guiding steps are. Number 1, step 1, it's observe and ask questions. Observe means to look carefully. So there are so many things around you. You could look at the sky, observe, and think, oh, why is it blue in color? Why is it not red? Why is it not orange? Why does it have to be blue? Right? So you have to observe carefully and you have to ask questions. Think. Why? You have to have questions. You have to have certain thoughts. Why does it happen the way it happens? What is it behind this phenomena that occurs? So the first step is to observe. Think in your mind. Ask a question when you observe something. Number 2, for the same question, you have to have an answer in your mind that is called a hypothesis, right? So if you have any question in your mind, if you're looking at something, say for example, you look at shooting star and you can have a question. Why it does not fall on the earth? It travels at a very fast speed. Then you have to have a simple answer for that as well. It's called a hypothesis. Now, in the experiment that you do, you need to check your hypothesis. To check your hypothesis whether you're correct or are there any other variations to your answer, you have to plan an experiment. You have to conduct an experiment. So before we conduct the experiment, we have to plan because there are certain things you need for the experiment. So you have to prepare all the materials that you need for the experiment. You have to have experiment sheet where you have the procedure step 1, step 2, step 3. Because any experiment you do, you have to do it stepwise. You cannot do it haphazardly, okay? It has to be very systematic. It's like baking a cake. You have to follow correct procedure. So step 4, you conduct the experiment. Once you conduct the experiment 2 to 3 times in the real world. Today we'll be doing it only one time, but usually you do it 2, 3 times and then you come to a conclusion. And then you check your conclusion with your hypothesis. Are you getting the same answer? Yes or no? And then you have to share your result and discuss your answer with your friends, and you need to do presentation. So let's look at the scientific method in today's class. What do you want to find out? Let's take, for example, we make a dinosaur tooth. We know this topic is about herbivore and carnivore. Depending on the kind of tooth you make, if it's sharp, you may think, it's a sharp one. I think it belongs to carnivore. Why? Because you need a very sharp edge to cut through the animal's body if you're a meat eater. So that's your guess. Then you have to have materials needed for the experiment because you're making something. Then you have to have the planning. For that, you need to watch the video today and conduct the experiment with your teacher in the live lesson. Once you make the tooth, you can tell whether if it's a sharp edge or it's a flat, a blunt one. In that case, it should belong to a herbivore animal which helps them in grinding. Once you have your final specimen ready, you can share your result, discuss your result, and you can do the presentation. So this is the first time we are using scientific method. I want all of you to read the worksheet carefully. If you do not understand anything, you need to ask your teacher and you will be guided. As mentioned before, this topic is about herbivore and carnivore. These words, herbivore, omnivore, carnivore, is a kind of classification in the animal kingdom. That means herbivores are those animals which eat only plants, veggies, fruits, grass. Carnivores are animals which eat only meat. They are meat eating animals. They eat animals. And omnivores is the category which eats both plants and animals. Which classification do you belong to? I can tell you mine. Mrs. Desai is a herbivore because she eats only plants, veggies, fruits. I'm not a meat eater, so I go into the category of herbivore. And what about you? Are you an omnivore, carnivore, or a herbivore? To understand the topic herbivore and carnivore, all students are required to log into this website, which is Big Bang Lab. The link is given to you here. If you cannot access using this link, Mrs. Desai has also posted a separate link in your Google Classroom called the Big Bang Lab. Once you enter your CMS email ID and the password, you should be able to enter the website. Now you can say, where is your email ID and password? You should check your Gmail account. The email ID and password were sent to you last week. So please go into your Gmail account and find your email and password for this website. Once you have email and password for this website and once you log into the site, you will have to add a profile here. You will come to this page. Adding a profile means adding your information, who you are. Are you a parent? Are you a child? Are you a student? Are you a teacher? So accordingly, you need to add your profile. When you're creating your profile, you add your name first. And then you have to put your date of birth. You need to choose one character, one avatar. Once you choose one avatar, you are ready to start. You will come to this website. Now, when you come to this page, there are two. One is herbivore versus carnivores, and other is dinosaur eggs. Now, in today's lesson, our topic is herbivore and carnivore. So, you'll click on the first. Yes, so please click on the first herbivore and carnivore tab and you will go to the website. Once you come into this website, you will go to this page here. You will learn the key points. That means the main ideas that are being covered in the topic. What are carnivores? What are herbivores? And what are omnivores? And also you will see what is the difference in all these three: herbivore, carnivore, and omnivores? What do they do? Why do they come under different categories? So here you will understand the key concepts in this unit. Now, to understand this better, you'll have to play all these videos that you see in step 8. You see this first video, a broken tooth. Once you play on this video, you will watch the video, you will understand the video, and you will move to the next part. That means you see the roller coaster ride down, you move to the next part. Here, you may have to play a game just to check whether you understood the concept correctly or not. Once you play the game, you can go to a higher level. You reach the third level. Here, again, there are videos and there would be games related to the videos you can play. Once you do all that, once you clear all the videos and all the games and you reach the higher level, you will come to the last part, which is about the experiment. Now, this is the most interesting part, and you have to watch this very, very carefully because in the live lesson today, we will be doing this science experiment. Interesting, isn't it? So, all of you have to pay very close attention. Now, for doing the science experiment, each student should have a kit like this. Do you see the black boxes on your desk here in the classroom? Many students have collected their textbooks along with the STEM experiment kit. So you should have this box with you at home. You can ask your parent if you have this, if they already got the box from school, they should have it here with them. If you don't have it, then yours is still at school, which needs to be collected. So please collect your boxes at the earliest. And if you have one, please get it ready. Each box, once you open the box, it has 2 packs. Do you see 2 bags? They are inside this box. One is written experiment number 1 and other is experiment number 2. Experiment 1 is herbivore and carnivore. Experiment 2 is a dinosaur egg experiment, which we will be doing later. So once you have this, remove the bags from the box. Once you remove the bags from the box, you will only open number 1, the dinosaur tooth experiment. Number 2, the dinosaur egg experiment, we don't need it for the time being. So do not remove anything from inside the bag. Just keep the bag like that and the teachers will tell you when to do this experiment. We are just showing you the content inside the bag. Now let's look at number 1, the dinosaur tooth experiment. Remove these things from the bag. Inside experiment 1 bag, you should have the salt bag, you should have the flour bag, and you should have a plastic cup. You should have these 3 things inside this experiment 1 bag, which is for making the dinosaur tooth experiment, and the plastic box serves as a tray. Now, okay, how to set up the experiment? As I said, in this lesson, we are looking at the topic herbivore and carnivore. So we will be doing the herbivore and carnivore tooth experiment. So here we take experiment bag number 1 only. And inside the experiment bag number 1, we have the plastic cup, the salt and the flour. Now, besides these things, you also need a spoon. You need a spoon to mix up all these things. And you need some water inside the plastic cup. So fill the plastic cup with water when we are doing the experiment in the live lesson, not now, later, okay? Now the optional materials that you see on the right hand side. the toothpick, the microwave, or the oven, they're optional. That means if you have, it's okay. Even if you don't have them, it's still okay. We can do our experiment without a microwave or oven. It's okay, all right? It just takes a little bit longer, but still we are good to do our experiment. When we do the experiment, there are a few things we need to pay attention to. These things are very, very important for our safety. So, number one will be if you're using a microwave or oven for the experiment, you have to ask an adult for help. You need to ask your helper, auntie, mommy, daddy, grandma, anyone in your home to help you how to use the microwave. Do not use it by yourself if you're not familiar with using a microwave or an oven, okay? So you need to ask your parents for help. Number two, when you're mixing all these things, the flour, the salt, do not use your bare hands. Do not touch them with your hands. In science experiments, in science lab, we do not touch anything with our hands. We have to always use a spoon. Okay? So use a spoon or a spatula to mix them up. Now, this bag, it says salt. Can we taste it? No. Rule number one is never put anything in your mouth. Never taste or drink anything from these bags. Never ever. Right? We don't do that. So do not eat or taste anything from the bags. Do not touch these salts with your bare hands and do not smell closely. Sometimes something could be giving off some smell. You don't smell it. Okay? You don't smell to see what it is. No. It could be like, it's not good for your health. Sometimes it could be toxic. Sometimes it could make you feel ill. So do not smell closely. Right? Okay. And before we do the experiment, you need to cover the table with a white cloth or a plastic. Keep your laptop away, little bit away, so that you don't spill or you don't drop anything on the keyboard to avoid damage. If you have safety goggles, it's good to wear safety goggles. If not, it's okay for this experiment because it's quite harmless and it's very safe. It's like the Play-Doh. So there are these are necessary precautions you need to take before we do the experiment. And last but not the least, you need to clean up once you do the experiment. Now I'll tell you in the next slide how to do the experiment and how to get ready for doing the experiment. We have to watch the experiment before we do it so that when we do it together along with the teacher, we are familiar and we know what we are doing. Set up the table, cover the table with a garbage bag, plastic bag. Keep experiment 1 bag outside and the tray. We do not need experiment 2 bag. Watch the dinosaur tooth experiment in Google Classroom. It's given very clear. You only watch it and do the setup. You do not start conducting the experiment by yourself. You have to wait for your teacher in the live lesson and then you start together. All right? See you soon.